Welcome back to AT&T Cybersecurity video series. My name is Shira Rubinov, and I'm here with Bindu Sundaresan, Director of AT&T Cybersecurity. Bindu, pleasure having you back today.
Thank you for having me.
Certainly. So Bindu, today we're going to talk about third-party risk management and supply chain. So when we talk about next-generation third-party cyber risk management, it's a powerful strategy that every business should have in their arsenal. Bindu, can you please share some insights and best practices around managing supply chain cyber risk, given the transformation that has been taking place?
Yeah, that's a great thing. I think, supply chain has definitely come to the forefront now, right? With all of the transformation that has taken place, globally, supply chain risk management is definitely in focus. So if we were to think about, any organization today, you rely on your supply chain, partners and vendors in that to be able to perform your business operations, be resilient, right? So the key is as you are engaging with more and more third-party providers today, more than ever before, keep in mind, we are all sort of one big happy family with all those interconnections that are taking place, which means that there's the good and then there's the bad. It definitely opens you out to more risks, right? The risk is multiplying. So if you think about, measures within your network that you take, how you protect your assets, how do you protect your, critical data that you have? And then now you're connecting with others, you're possibly sharing. Not all third party relationships are created equal. So think about it where you really cannot, approach it from the view of, I'm going to evaluate all of my third parties in the same light, and I'm going to, put security measures in place for everybody. That's going to be cost prohibitive and really not pragmatic, right? So you want to be able to think about, how do you go about truly managing your third party supply chain and the risks associated with that. So the first thing is to really think about how do you evaluate key vendors. So who is critical for your business operations. You basically, the easiest way to do this is go to your procurement department and legal, take a look at all your contracts with different supply chain vendors and think about criticality of data and criticality to business operations, sort of tier them up, right? So you're basically creating categories and evaluating key vendors based on their risk profile. Once you do that, archaic ways used to be sending out spreadsheets and questionnaires and keeping them all in spreadsheets and trying to monitor them. You would do this once a year, or you would do it at contract renewal. You were not able to really continuously monitor them with legacy third-party risk management type of tools. Today we've come a long way from that, right? So you can continuously monitor and you can tweak your risk profile based on the risk profile of the connections you're making with these third parties. So do you give the same level of access to your HVAC vendor that you would give your cloud provider? Would you be looking at doing risk assessments more often on your critical vendors? Yes, right. So you really will not just be sending out a spreadsheet and a sort of a point in time assessment. You want to get to the point of managing these risks on a continuous basis and don't just do passive assessments, right? You don't want to do you don't want to be intrusive, when you're assessing your third party and, performing, let's say, a scan. But at the same time, you also don't want to bank on data that is old about your vendor's risk profile. So I think
you'd also say that you're only as secure as your weakest link. So if you're looking at them as you're evaluating them and they're ongoing, you're able to detect whether or not they're up to snuff that meets your security criteria. Is that correct?
Yeah, definitely. And, that's a great, way of looking at it, right? So, if you think about your business and all these third-party connections, you're only as secure as that weakest link, like you point out. So you want to be able to take into account that each of these connections, each of these relationships, changes your risk profile. So what are you doing proactively to be able to manage that? And how would you know if your third party was, the cause of leakage of sensitive information? There's no point sort of, taking a look at it post, a breach, right? So 2021 is a great step for us to be able to go back and take a look at how does supply chain look like today? Right? It's definitely changed for most of us since, last year. So now is the time to sort of scale it back and say, okay, let's just tier up the vendors, take a look at it from a point of view of a risk profile, and let's mature this program over time. So let's say you had 100, suppliers. You're not going to be able to come up with a program day one and monitor all 100 suppliers. Not going to be, practical and definitely not resource intensive, right? So you don't want to do that. So can you do 30%? Can you take a look at it in terms of critical vendors and focus on that 30%, mature the program, then include 50% of your vendors, right? So, and don't just think about it as sort of a data confidentiality and privacy agreement in a contract. That doesn't just do it, right? So you want to be able to get a better understanding of that risk profile, and also not just from a compliance view. So the focus should be managing third-party risk, not managing third-party compliance.
Well, let me ask you, when it comes to trust, right? Trust is a key factor when it comes to security and really anything. What if somebody has, or an organization has a reputation of being trustworthy? Would you encourage organizations to do their own trust assessment of that organization and their security themselves, or just rely on reputation?
So I would say, trust is definitely, key, attribute today.
Yes.
But trust is also a relative statement, right? So if you think about it, the saying sort of your reputation precedes you is great, but we all know this, right? We are basically sort of one vulnerability away from being breached. We are just one attack away from, sort of tarnishing that reputation. And today, I think it's, better to be safe than sorry. Like continuous monitoring, continuous assessments has nothing to do with whether I trust you or not. It is about due diligence. And I think in the larger scheme of things, across the supply chain, it's going to benefit all of us, right? So the more we are accountable, from a relationship aspect in terms of that trust, the more we are going to do better as a society and community as a whole to be able to bring cybersecurity into this equation of trust and not just banking on years of reputation.
Wow, no, that's great words of wisdom, Bindu. Thank you. And I'm sure you really gave our audience something to really think about. And as always, very much enjoyed speaking with you, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you, Shira. This was awesome.
Thank you, Bindu.